Hello, and welcome to a podcast about flags. Now is the time, reapers, now is the time to stand alert. Let us sharpen our tools well, for when another June comes. So go the words of Els Segadors, the adopted national anthem of Catalunya. Though the version used today was first written down in the late 19th century, its origins lie in the Reapers' War of the 1640s, also known as the Catalan Revolt. Catalunya, depending on who you ask, is either a burgeoning independent nation being subjugated by the Spanish government in Madrid, or a region of northwestern Spain that borders on France and Andorra and contains the country's second city, Barcelona. This difference in opinion is reflected both in Catalunya's history as well as what the origins of its flags are. The flag of Catalunya, called the Senyera, is one of the oldest flags to still be in usage today. It features 9 horizontal bars, 5 yellow and 4 red. Or if it helps to visualize it, it looks like a flag that features a yellow field with 4 horizontal red bars. As mentioned previously, its exact origins are disputed, depending on what side of the aisle you are. The Gran Enciclopedia Aragonesa, an Aragon-themed encyclopedia, states that the usage of red bars on a golden background goes back to Alfonso II of Aragon. Alfonso ruled as both the King of Aragon and the Count of Barcelona from 1164 until his death in Perpignan in 1196. This theory maintains that any later usage relates to the County of Barcelona and not the idea of a historic Catalunya nation. If you go to Catalunya today, or at least to Barcelona, this likely won't be the origins for the Senyera you'll hear. The more popular version, and the one I'd been told when speaking to Catalans, involves a significant figure in Catalunya's history using their own blood to draw, with their 4 fingers, bars across their golden shield. One version mentions the then Count of Barcelona, Wilfred the Hairy, having the bars drawn across his own shield, with his own blood, by King Charles the Bald as an expression of gratitude. Side note, how great were some of these regal nicknames? A later version of this legend had Ramon Berenguer using his own blood to draw it on his own shield. Historians and Catalunian nationalists alike recognise that either legend is likely just that, a legend, as the timelines of some of the historical figures don't quite match up. There are other potential origin stories for the usage of red and yellow, including one that states that it was adopted as a sign of fidelity to the Pope, as red and yellow were the colours of the Papal States prior to the 19th century. Either way, red bars and a golden shield have been associated with the County of Barcelona, at least, since the 10th or 11th century. Today the Senyera is used throughout Catalunya, as well as places associated with the former Kingdom of Aragon, though usually with added variations. Its most public usage, at least on an international scale, is through FC Barcelona. The Senyera is featured on the club's crest, and the yellow and red motif is frequently used on their playing kits. In the 2020-2021 season, they released an alternate kit that featured a yellow jersey with 4 diagonal red stripes. These stripes, running downward from left to right as you look at the shirt, taper off with a texture that alludes to the origin mythos of the Senyera, appearing to be bloody streaks marked on the shirt with fingers. Outside of sports, the Senyera is most commonly seen in the political world, being used at Catalan independence demonstrations and at sympathy protests worldwide. In some contexts, it occupies a similar role that the Palestinian flag does, one of solidarity with, as some would see it, fellow brothers in arms struggling against imperial powers for their independence. While the version of the flag described at the beginning is the official flag of Catalunya, you will frequently see a version that features a 5-pointed white star amid a blue triangle at the hoist of the Senyera. This version of the flag is known as the Senyera Estelada, or simply, the Estelada. The Estelada began to appear at the beginning of the 1900s, with the white star representing independence and freedom. Various independence and anti-Francoist Catalonian movements would use the Estelada throughout the 20th century, with alternatives being used. One of these alternatives used a red star and a triangle that was the same shade as the yellow of the Senyera. This version of the Estelada, which originated in the 60s and 70s among socialist and Marxist circles, was meant to represent the idea that once the fascist dictatorship of Franco is rejected and Catalonia gains its independence, it should pursue a Marxist form of governance. Today though, it is mostly seen as just a less cluttered version of the Estelada. Both the Senyera and the Estelada are flags that meet all the criteria for what makes a flag great. The simplicity of its design means that even the smallest child will find it easy to replicate, and its versatile usage throughout the region and internationally among the diaspora stands to this point. And this simplicity does not come at the cost of strong symbolism, with both variants of the flag having a tied-in origin mythos, or 3, as well as a multifaceted meaning depending on who's flying the flag. Should a day come where Catalunya is finally independent, then it won't be scrambling for scraps of meaning and symbols behind the couch cushions. It will have always been there. As the Els Segadors goes, Catalunya triomphant, donara eserica e plena. Thank you for listening to a podcast about flags. You can follow me on Twitter @RBOSol or @AFlagPodcast for updates on the podcast or on the many ways to listen. If you have any feedback or suggestions, you can otherwise contact me by sending an email to apodcastaboutflags@gmail.com. This podcast features music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Tell him for fucking Cork there with the Estelada.